Right, hello. So hopefully this live stream goes all right. It's just going to be a generic one of any topic. And yeah, I really want to cut my hair for obvious reasons, because when I wear headphones, it looks like you're being partially scalped. But the problem is I have no clue whatsoever where my hair clippers have gone. So in the end, I might just cave in and buy some new ones after payday, I think. And then if the other ones turn up, they're a spare. But I think if I order the new ones, they're literally going to turn up the next day, because that's how that stuff always seems to work. Right, Black Fox. All right, Survival. Right, Stu. Yeah. So K94. Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too bad, but yeah, it's getting annoying not knowing where my hair clippers are now. All right, Rich. That's annoying about your Forge, isn't it? So I don't think I saw all the message about it, but I'm assuming there was a fault with a bit of it, was there, and that the person's been a dick with a refund sort of procedure. Stuff like that's always frustrating, isn't it? No, I'm selling stuff, Mr. Slavinator. I'm not buying new stuff, as you know, if you've watched any of the videos recently. Other than the stuff I've showed in videos that's turned up recently, for the most part, I'm getting rid of stuff, not not selling it. Not selling it, sorry, not buying it. All right, Brighto, all right, Radiac Maniac. What YouTube ads, Class 2 Instructor? I don't see YouTube ads because I have that YouTube Premium thing, because for what it costs a month and the amount of videos I watch per day on YouTube. Benjamin, for the simple reason it creates space and it gives me money. It's a pretty obvious thing. The main reason is space more than anything, just because, the amount of fucking space some surplus takes up, and some of it you can't really do any more videos of it, and it just sits there doing nothing, takes up space. So I had somebody, I still don't know, Class 2 Instructor, what you're on about there. Definitely haven't seen the ad for it. But yeah, so what was I going to say? Yeah, I've posted something today that somebody bought that was good, but I need to take a load more photos of things so people can actually see. Right. Is it Flazzy? Like I said, it's not something I've even looked up or heard of, so there we go. Wow, Black Fox, the stuff I'm selling will obviously go up for sale when I part, but for the most part, I'm not telling people where I'm buying it, because otherwise you're going to get people from here on purposely fucking with auctions. And I don't mean nice people on YouTube, I mean the people who want to be dicks. So I've done a load of private sales, and I have done some things on auction, but for the most part, I'm not going to link people to stuff. You could probably put something in there, Brighthole, to absorb some of the moisture, but yeah, masks are always going to start steaming up. That's annoying, Mike. Hello, Stug. Yeah, sorry for getting that gun out on your stream the other day. I didn't realise when you were saying earlier that, you can't show guns regardless, but you can show every other weapon as long as it's legal in your country. Right, the person who's asked a few stupid questions on the stream, I'm just getting rid of you now, because I have no interest in talking with people that are obviously just asking questions to being annoying. Like, I've already said I'm not buying more stuff, so then why would I buy stuff that's not even related to what I do on the channel? Ah, cool, Cyborg, that's good. Yeah, if it fits all right, that's good. But yeah, I'm sure you can get better plate carriers than the Osprey. Oh, that's good, Templar. It's nice to have a good teacher, isn't it? Not a bad one in that regard. Yeah, well, that's the point, Brighthawk. That's why it was in there, to absorb the moisture. Oh, so it's like a really low quality thing that's damaged other bits of your setup, Rich, yeah. That sounds good. Yeah, Radiac Maniac. I wish I had an offer like that. What country are you in, Black Fox? But in nearly every Western country, no. Because, you'd have to be in a pretty shitty police state to order a gas mask and that get you in trouble. The only thing that would get you in trouble is if you're buying stolen goods, as in you're buying masks that you shouldn't be able to get. Right, in Canada, as far as I'm aware, you can perfectly legally own stuff. Probably not Canadian military surplus because they destroy it now. Yeah, it's weird, Mike, isn't it? You can literally have rocket launchers on stream. That would be legal. You can have grenades, well, not legal, but you know what I mean, with YouTube's policy. You can have grenades, swords, bayonets, trench clubs, like plastic explosives, all that sort of stuff, as long as it's not like a rifle or a pistol. Not yet, Stug. Generally, you don't get more than one come up for sale per month, and we're not at the end of February yet. So in March, we'll see if any new ones come up. This has been one of the surprising months where there's been 3 going up for sale, but only one of those is an ROC post. One of them was that one in Wales that we were talking about, and the other one was like a World War II one that got retrofitted in the Cold War, but that one went for like nearly £500,000, but that was like a really big bunker. Probably the size of several houses put together, that one. Well, there's nothing illegal about ordering legitimate items for sale, Black Fox, from other countries. My understanding is, Cyborgy, it's technically not meant to be for sale, but sometimes the MOD themselves surplus it, and they'd almost bitch that people buy it. While clearly, if you're selling it, people might be buying it. But for the most part, it probably depends how it turns up as surplus, if that makes sense. Like, if it's stolen, so it's essentially stolen property and you buy it, you do own a stolen good. If the MOD themselves surplus it, they have absolutely no right to complain that people buy the items they surplus. That's good, Templar. If you actually make practical use of the one you've got, that's really good, isn't it? Because that's the thing. I don't think a lot of people seem to miss the point that you can functionally use them, as a living space. Yeah, you could use silica gel, Brighto, as long as it's not anywhere where it's going to get into your mouth or whatever, because silica gel can be poisonous. But if you could obviously have it in the mask somewhere where it's like not going to get in the way of your mouth, and that would absorb a lot of moisture. Yeah, well, this is the thing, Cyborg. There's I've got a Virtus helmet, and again, that was sold from a proper army surplus store on eBay with loads and loads and loads of feedbacks, and loads of items for sale. So it looks like most of the stuff they sell, they literally buy from the MOD. So yeah, there's a possibility that it could be stolen, like everything, but I very much doubt it is. Just because it's like all this stuff that. Never used one of those Crossman's, Isaac, so can't tell you. I mean, I don't think you're gonna have much use for a GP5. The only Yugoslavian camo stuff I've got, Baron, was like the late Yugoslavian sort of Serbian type stuff from like the 80s and 90s, whatever that was called, like the oak leaf style one. And I've got some of the older, really old, like Yugoslavia, well, not really, really old with how old Yugoslavia was, but like the 1950s, 60s Yugoslavian sort of yellow, brown, and green camo stuff. But none of them are in this room. I mean, £89 for a brand new air gun is a pretty good price. Is that an air pistol, an air rifle, without me looking it up? Yeah, your chat messages are very good in English, Brighto. I think it's YouTube that causes more problems, isn't it, with hiding your comments and anything else. I can always understand what you're going on about. So yeah, is the 2240 then a pistol or a rifle? Oh, it's an air pistol. Okay. Yeah, I think in air pistols, 177 probably makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? Because it's going to get higher velocity. I've got a 177 air pistol. but I don't end up using it much, really, just because it's my ones. Although I've got a bag still full of, like the butane canisters. The problem is that the butane canister ones, I never get that into because of the fact that, they essentially are costing you a fair bit every time you shoot them. If you're cleaning very old masks, Davo, I'd do it very carefully. I don't really know what to suggest in regards to cleaning like World War II thin rubber masks. Maybe literally just water, like lukewarm water that you're dabbing it on with a cloth. I really wouldn't want to suggest any chemicals for a World War II mask because of the age of them. I mean, there's lots of never used GP7s for sale on eBay, Templar, because they were one of those masks that the Soviet Union had en masse and didn't do anything with. What, the proper C4 filter, Radiac Maniac? You can literally, if you just want to put a 40mm filter on the C4, you can do it with any 40mm NATO filter. Yeah, the ones that they call like M89 jackets, whatever it is, I've got two of those. I did a video re-dyeing one of them because one of them was really faded, and I got it to look an all right color again with like dark green camo dye. Bright Oil says for old masks, I recommend some cloth soaked in water. Yeah, but like we were saying, you really don't want to use anything harsh, I would think, on an old mask because, with newer masks, obviously they're designed to be, if they're like a very new mask, they're going to be pretty much guaranteed to withstand horrible chemical threats. So you don't really have to worry about what additives are in the water for washing it. No way of knowing Nemayak because it really depends on what the seller's doing, doesn't it? I'm going to put slow mode on because there's some people who are new, and I can't tell if they're being sort of, just new and don't know sort of the etiquettes of streaming or whatever, but there's quite a lot of spammy sort of pointless comments on at the moment. So for the benefit of the doubt, I'm going to put slow mode on rather than just handing out timeouts or bans to people. If I can actually get slow mode on, because of course YouTube has changed all the interfaces again, and when they do that, you can't do what you want to do. Let's have a look. Can I figure this out? So live chat, enable slow mode. Let's put this on to 30 seconds. There we go. Sorry for all the people that are chatting sensibly. Oh, they have changed at least one of the interfaces now again on the control room. That makes a lot more sense. So that's good. Yeah, if the thing is, Brighton, if you personally like a mask, that's fine, isn't it? It's just I'm one of those people, where I personally don't really like the GP7 or PMK, and other people liking it isn't going to change my opinion that I personally don't dislike it. But if you get on with it, that's great, But hello to anybody joining. I guess a load of people only just got the notification, guess by, how the view count just jumped up. The Israeli M15 for $30 is a brilliant price. The best crossbow I have, in terms of, I'd say, the most useful in some ways, the Jandao Chasewind, like technically spec-wise, that big Mancun compound one I have is the best one in a sense. But in terms of practicality, that's certainly not my favourite. There's been people spamming a lot, Fluzzy, and I've had to ban some of them, but I'm not sure if they were deliberate trolls. But, the sort of people who wouldn't listen to anything you were saying and keep talking about. Like, I had one person who kept sort of saying, why don't I buy certain things, Like I say, well, I don't really have an interest in it, but why don't you buy it? Why don't you buy it? That kind of thing, I've had an all right day, Chernobyl, man. The weather's not been bad here, but it's not been warm. We've had lots of days recently where there's been no snow or anything, but they've been about -8. One of the days when it was -8, though, because I said I wanted to get some exercise, I did go for like a 2-mile walk on that day. And, it was one of those days where even with cold weather clothing on, because of the wind chill, you didn't really even warm up from walking, even I was walking at quite a brisk pace. But yeah, so it's been all right days. I mean, I'm hoping for some good dry evenings again so I can go out with the night vision. Yeah, I'm not too bad, G-Lucky. I had an eye infection recently that's annoying, but that seems to have cleared up fine. I'm on my last day of doing the eye drops for it technically today. But I might take them into tomorrow as well, because with antibiotics like that, there's no harm in, extending the course longer than it needs to go on. The danger of those is if you don't complete the course. So today should be the last day of the course, but I think just to play it safe, I might go into tomorrow. Not on the Canadian C4 Radiac Maniac. If you mean like the one that's behind me, unless you're talking about something completely different. Do you mean this mask? The Canadian C4 just has an intake valve like every other 40mm mask. Look, see? There's the valve there, look, the thread, and there's your umbrella valve there. You've got an umbrella valve exhale valve at the bottom as well, but the C4... Right, I'm pretty sure this Isaac person is being a fucking troll now, so goodbye. No, it's not. It's called fucking conjunctivitis. Twat. The way I reckon I got the conjunctivitis, actually, was I banged my eye with the night vision on one of the days I was doing a video of the night vision. You know, where like you have your glasses off, and I was putting one up to my eye. And I accidentally like prodded my eye with a night vision. I reckon that's probably because that made my eye quite sore that day. And about 2 days later, the infection started. I reckon that's how it got in there. From the Czech Republic, not all that much stuff. From Czechoslovakia, quite a fair bit. Are you sure the exhale valve's intact? It sounds more like to me you've got a problem with your exhale valve. Or is your exhale valve jammed? Right, you can't see it very well from this side, but obviously the intake valve, let me put this lamp on for you. Right, the intake one is always going to be like that, where the valve is on the opposite side from your intake because it moves inwards, not outwards. Your exhale valve, you always see the actual valve there, look, because the idea is the valve bends, the valve can't bend through the grate, essentially. That's how it works. Lesser Grims, in terms of it being like robust or just cheap kind of thing. Hostel shouldn't put you off Prague. Prague's nothing like that if you go to Prague. Cheap mostly. Probably East German or Polish NBC suits from the Cold War. They're both pretty similar. The East German ones are a bit more robust but less comfortable. The Polish ones are a bit more comfortable, but probably would tear slightly easier. But both of those, because they're sort of rubberized NBC suits, work fine, unless you completely rip them apart. That's very interesting, Max. Does he know which study that is? Because I'd be quite tempted to look into that, but I've not had any of the other symptoms. Obviously, I was making sure, as usual, I only use my own towels and everything else because, as soon as I know I've got anything infectious, I always double down on, making sure I do nothing that's going to spread germs. But conjunctivitis itself is bacterial, though, isn't it? Because, like I said, I know the reason I got it was probably from bumping my eye, but I know they're finding now, aren't they? There's loads and loads of things that can be, like, secondary things brought on by corona, like you're saying, because there's, like, rash-type things, aren't there, a lot of people get as well? And, like, the sense of loss of taste and smell wasn't on a lot of things for ages, even though that's a thing most people get. You can set, on Discord? Yeah, send me a pic on Discord and have a look. It sounds like you have a positive pressure one, Radiac Maniac, from the sound of it. I'll look at the picture when you send it, but what I think you've probably got is like a firefighter's style mask. Because they're generally designed so, there's a pressure type thing to keep the things sealed until you have enough air pressure builds up. That's interesting, Brighto. But yeah, I like those sort of NBC condom suit things. You know, you just throw it off, wrap yourself. I've seen them, Lesser Grims, and I don't own any. Lots of people bring them up on these streams all the times. No, all I think you're looking at there, Radiac Maniac, is I think you're just looking at the bit of rubber on the back of the umbrella valve. Right. Here's a way you can test it without breaking your mask. Get something like a pen, but a pen might be too fat. You don't want something sharp. I'm just trying to think what might be a good example. This will work. I think, like, you know, one of the little bits from a gas mask filter tab. So get one of these. Get this bit. And poke this like this and see if it moves. See, you know, because if it moves when you do that, there's nothing wrong with it. See, mine's got a little bit there, but mine's just more compact than yours. But, you know, I know for a fact that my exhale valve on this one does have a big bit of rubber, but probably can't see that there. That, yeah, it's going to be too dark to see in there, but that looks more like the valve you were showing there. Yeah, well, that's very true of bungee jumping, isn't it, Dominic? But yeah. Split rubber brought me into this world. A split rubber can also take you out, yeah. Hype sent it me, who sends me quite a lot of stuff because he lives in China, so he can get his hands on stuff that, you know, can be expensive otherwise or a bit difficult to export from China, or, you know, just fine for sale. So he often sends me stuff as gifts. You'd have to ask the seller in the case of every individual mask, Billy No Mates, because people can literally write what they want on eBay. It doesn't make it true. Yeah, strange Brighto. It's probably like some of the mask pole filters, isn't it? Where some are definitely 40mm GOST and they did some in NATO, and maybe there's some where there's a bit of a weird crossover. What suit are you looking at? That weird one. That's a French riot armor suit. No, that was not a GP7 Strelok. If you were asking me about this, that's definitely not a GP7. The GP7V is just out of a drinking tube. That's Canadian C4. This is the love child of an S10 and an M40. You take the voice diaphragm style bits of the M40, you know, like the lower bits of it, which are pretty good. But you have the eyes on this are a lot more like the S10. So, you know, this is one of the best, you know, masks of its generations. This was asked earlier in the stream, Dominic, and I answered it. Can you listen, please? You might not have been on then, though. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. No, wait, ask at the beginning of a new month, or like a few days into the beginning of a new month, because unless you've not heard about the ones that I've been talking about already this month. Clearly I do, Lucas Seigel, and you've asked me that before. But I can't show guns on streams, apparently, because that's against YouTube's terms of service. I don't think that little thing on the filter does anything. I think that's just a plastic mold thing. I am looking and I don't see what you're wanting me to say. I've seen that on loads of filters, doesn't mean a thing. Well, they don't filter radiation directly, Max Hyde. They filter, like you're saying, fallout dust, and they would filter fallout dust, yeah. But yeah, I've got quite a few filters. Whether or not I've got any handy on there behind me, no. But I think I've got some filters in this drawer. Oh, that was a weight falling over. Yeah, they're sealed, so I'm not going to open these. But bear in mind, right, Radiac Maniac, the proper filters that were issued with this mask, yeah, the filters that were actually issued with it were C2 filters and C2A1 filters. They are just generic 40mm filters. All right, Dominic. Okay, I'll give you a quick rundown. 3 bunkers went for sale recently, or are going up for sale, whichever way it is. There was a big World War II airbase airfield sort of bunker that was extended in the Cold War. That sold recently for over £400,000. There's an ROC post going up for sale in Cornwall, but they want way too much for the guide price. They want it to be like 25 to 30 grand, which, otherwise I would have bid on it, but they basically want you to start bidding at that price. So the answer to that will be no. And there's a really cool but trashed bunker in Wales that's an old civil defence bunker that's 40 grand. And if I had that money available to me now, I'd have bought it. But then that one might be one of those ones that might cost you another 40 grand over several years, making it livable. Well, first thing, Radiac Maniac, with any mask is check the valves are all intact, because if your valves aren't intact inside the mask, it's not going to work full stop. But yes, some masks will require more or less pressure than others to, open and close the valves properly. So then you'll need a size 1, won't you? RBMK 1000. Orange and yellow box. You looking at that one? Right. If you're looking at that one up there, right, there's two. There's a yellow CDV 720 on the shelf. Hanging from the shelf is a PDRM 82. And if you're looking further down, there's a CDV 750 decimeter charger. It's very smelly, Lucas, as in I don't even store mine inside the house. Levels are smelly. I don't know if rum aroma, as in like you open a bottle of rum and sniff it. Well, that would certainly test the filter, because you can smell alcohol vapor. Yeah, well, the thing, as I've been saying, Dominic, is every month my savings account for the bunker gets bigger. So it's literally going to be a case of when one comes up for sale that's within the price range and it's not a silly sort of, somebody wanting more than they're actually worth for it, I'll get one. But it's not something, sadly, that, there's never like 50 bunkers for sale at once where people are having to compete to sell theirs for cheaper than other people's, No, sadly, I've never been, Max, to Hack Green. I know which one you mean by Hack Green. I've been to Calverton Hatch. But yeah, the one that went for sale recently, it looked a lot like Hack Green, actually, in terms of, its design. I wonder if it was actually the same complete design as Hack Green, the one that sold recently. But it was that kind of thing, it looked like a big concrete block sort of thing on the outside. And then obviously went underground as well. And there was a radio mast at this one that went for sale for like $500,000. Well, that's exactly the thing, Dominic. And then if one comes up cheaper and needs refurbishing, more of my money can go straight away onto refurbishing. I'll have a quick look, Radiac Maniac. Yeah, that looks good. Looks like a little barrel of nuclear waste, which is what you want. Yeah. Right, I'll close Discord now because I don't want you spamming me with pics, because I'm meant to be chatting with people in the chat. The idea is that you don't change the filter in a contaminated area, but what you'd have to do if you did have to do it is literally hold your breath, take the filter off, put a new filter on, exhale as hard as you can to try and purge as much air out the mask as possible, and then carry on breathing. But bear in mind, that's not actually, ideal, because there could still be gas getting in if you did that. It's kind of why, like, the GSR and M50 have those filters that are designed so when you've taken a filter off, you can't breathe through that filter port. Have I been to Denmark? No, I've not been to Denmark. I've been to Norway and I've been to Finland, but I've not been to Denmark. Eventually, Rex, yes. Let me have a look at what it looks like, Chris, because off the top of my head, I can't even remember. Scott C420. Blaze it. So that's the Papa unit thing, is it? Because when I search C420, it's coming up sometimes with Papa units, and it's coming up with various masks attached to that Papa unit. No, I've never seen any Papa units like that for decent prices, which is probably the reason I don't own one. The best thing I think you can get in terms of a Papa unit for not rip-off money is to get one of those Israeli green ones, but bear in mind that only uses a single filter and doesn't move anywhere near as much air. When was I in Norway? I think 2017, I think it was. Or was it 2016? No, I think it'd been 2016. Yeah, it would have been 2016. First I was in Finland for about a week and a bit, and then I was in Norway for a week and a bit. Yeah, but be careful, Brighto, because if you're up high in a treehouse and you have to evacuate it quickly, it's a long way down. Flazzy, I've got the TK Scout. I think it's just called the TK Scout, isn't it? The green one. Let's have a look. Although mine's probably an old spec one at this point, unless they still make them to the Clear Scout TK. And it's still got the same thing. But for the price of those, Hype's, for less than what they cost, Hype is getting me a really good Chinese flare system, like, you know, like a rip-off of the flares, so just a thermal thing that plugs into your phone. Newt literally asked me, when was I in Norway? Oh, never mind, I think you're being a twat. So anyway, so it's obviously still not super spec, but he sent me all the technical specs, and I looked at my Flare Scout specs, and yeah, it's like higher resolution, higher frame rate, better thermal detection in terms of, you know, like temperatures. You can do the thing where you can toggle temperatures on, you know, where it will say like 30 Celsius over something 10 Celsius. Yeah, I reckon that might be good then, Flazzy. I mean, the Flare Scouts are all right, don't get me wrong, but I'll do a side-by-side comparison of them, you know, like filming the same stuff with either. But yeah, the one he's sending me from all the videos I've seen of people testing him does seem a lot better. But off the top of my head, I can't remember the name of it. No, I think you're looking, aren't you, at the British decimeter reader? The big chunky green brick thing that literally just reads decimeters. You can, Stuart, but they wouldn't be really fully NBC protective, would they? Because of the fact that your eyes are exposed. It certainly can, Lucas. High levels of ionizing radiation literally cause electronics to shit themselves. You know, hence why the Soviets couldn't use the lunar rovers on the roof of the, you know, worst bit of the reactor building's roof to shove all the stuff off. Yeah, you can use them in combo goggles, but the best thing you're probably going to get in that regard, though, is just something like an MSA 410 or something. But yeah, there's, you know, there's a lot of examples, like, and they had the same problems with Fukushima, that they could use robots to clean up, you know, some bits of the site, but other bits robots would just break down or lose connection, you know, on the like remote control, for the exact same reason that ionizing radiation does mess with stuff, not just people and, you know, your genetics, but the more and more like insanely radioactive it is, the more it just messes with everything. I've answered that already in this stream. I'm not going to keep repeating myself. I was sent it for free as a gift. So no, you can't buy one from a person that sends me it as a gift. See you, Dominic. Let me check for you, Flazzy, actually, what the name of that scope is. eBay, 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 eBay. Nearly everything behind me is from eBay. The only one that wasn't was that, and that was sent to me by a friend for a birthday like 10 years ago. All right, it's called T2 Search, Flazzy. Let's see if I can get you a page up on it. All right, this is the thing. There's some examples of it there. So it's an Infiniray T2 Search is the name of it. But yeah, a lot of its specs are like double to 4 times as good as my FLIR TK Scout, and obviously it's those are about 300 odd quid. At least that's what Hype got me one for. But yeah, the actual thing itself isn't that big. I think the little holder thing they've got there is a bit deceptive, but the actual thing is, you know, just that little square bit in the first image. It's just, I think, you know, that frame's designed so it's easier to hold it and have it mounted exactly behind your camera, you know, where you'd expect the lens to be. But yeah, how they essentially work is you can't use them with iPhones because, you know, iPhones, you need an Android with USB-C, which is what the modern ones all use. And then it literally just plugs in there. So, you know, it's like a little camera that faces the rear that just sits at the bottom of your phone. German World War II masks aren't very good, Joshua. The civilian ones are all right. The GM30 and GM38 are a bit shit. Right, half my Stuart. I've done videos on it, but for the most part, MSA 410, GVS Ellipse, JSP Force 8. Some of the 3M ones are all right if you can get them at a good price. The P3 versions of the Soviet or Russian U2Ks are pretty good. You know, like that one there that the guy's got on that you'd have actually. That mask. You can get that in P3, so I'd recommend that. But sadly, I don't have any P3 versions of it. But yeah, if I ever find one of those for not too much, I'll get the P3 version. That's all right, shit. There's some videos I've done recommending more, so I'd say just watch those and you get the full gist. But sometimes it depends what you can find for a good price, you know, and are you wearing glasses? Because some fit with glasses better than others do, you know, some you won't want to wear with glasses. Yeah, I've got a GM38 in bad condition, so I might end up selling that. I've got a VM37, VM40, VM44. I've not got a German stick grenade. I've got 2 deactivated Hungarian stick grenades. And seeing as what we were saying, the weird rules of YouTube live streaming is showing a grenade on a live stream is apparently okay, but not a gun. So I can't get a rifle out, you know, or a pistol or an air pistol, anything like that. But I can show you a stick grenade. So these are a lot smaller than the German stick grenades. I think the explosive head on them is a similar size, but the actual stick bit is pretty short on these. But essentially, the entirety of the actual grenade bit is this bit. No, I wouldn't sell it to the US, Lucas, just because the shipping on it would be insane. It's completely defeats the point of it. So basically, how this works, this is the actual grenade head. So obviously it doesn't have any explosive in it. It's deactivated. So what's happened is they must have cut it open somehow, you know, removed the filler and then sealed it back up. But how this would work is basically this would be filled with explosive and it would have a fuse in it. This bit is basically just a spring, essentially, that launches from there, this little harpoon looking thing. That's all this bit does, basically. You'd have that in there ready to shoot upwards, and then that would shoot up. When that shoots up, what it does, hits something in there, sets the fuse off, then, you know, the countdown begins for it to explode. I think you mean buzzsaw, Joshua. As far as I'm aware, Nandor, I think they had two versions of Hungarian one. I think there was blue and red stripe. And I think one was the impact grenade, one was the timer grenade. In some nations, yeah, you'd use the colour to indicate if it was a training one with, like, that didn't go off or it just made smoke come out, whatever was less filler. But I'm pretty sure with this one, you know, this was actually, I'm pretty sure this, like, Hungarian Cold War style stick grenades, I'm pretty sure both could be essentially a training type one. But yeah, these are quite nice lightweight grenades. But yeah, they're a weird mechanism, the stick grenades, you know, because this entire handle basically just does the little thing the top of a regular grenade does, you know, where you pull the spoon out and then, or pull the ring, you know, release the spoon, and then your little firing pin shoots down on the spring tension to start the fuse off. Yeah, different countries use different color schemes, though, don't they, for stuff like that in IAM? So it could be that this was a training one, I don't know, but it feels... But then again, they could have made the weight right. But I've seen, like, crates of these that look like, you know, ready for deployment type things, where you could buy, like, 50 of these in a crate at once. Not really flazzy. For a lot of people, I think they just reckon it's the throwing style, that, you know, you can just literally do that and throw it in a good overarm throw because of the stick. But I don't know if there were ever any studies done, you know, checking how far a stick grenade would fly compared to a regular grenade. But in terms of like scary grenades, this thing, like, yeah, you could throw both fine, but I feel like you could probably get this one to fly a bit further because of, you know, you can flick your wrist as you throw it, assuming then you don't fuck that up and it flies really close to you. But this one would just literally be an open palmed throw, I imagine, with a grenade like this. But wow, with this, technically you're not meant to throw these, are you? Unless you're, like, behind a concrete wall, because these are defensive grenades with, like, supposedly a 50-meter kill radius. No, I don't have any Japanese grenades. Yeah, this one's actually heavier, Flazzy. This one, Shao, is heavier than all of this one put together. But yeah, it's just the entirety of the stick literally just does the job of this bit on this grenade. That's the crazy thing. Obviously, these are all deactivated because I can legally own them. Green, yeah, same. So these ones I've got, yeah, blue. So because I thought they had, so if it's blue, red, and green, then yeah, in communist Hungary, it might have been blue is either impact or fuse. Actually, I suppose red, if red's the color most countries use for a fuse grenade, they'd probably use red as well, wouldn't they? So red was probably fuse, let's say. Blue might have been impact head, and then green, like you said, was a training one. But yeah, this is the weird thing, is the entirety of the stick mechanism on this one literally does the job of this thing, you know, because all it's designed to do is just basically shoot a spike out with a bit of force to, you know, set off the firing cap in the grenade. If you mean on these ones, I've heard two reasons. One reason that's been given a lot in history is because it makes it easier to grip with this checkered pattern. The other reason that's given is because apparently those bits help spread the shrapnel, you know, when the grenade explodes, because those bits, you know, like the shape of it means it goes more in every direction. So yeah, it's either a frag reason or it's an easy to hold reason. Might be a bit of both. But most grenades of this style, you'll see, have this design. Some of the more modern grenades don't know, do they? They're more of a smooth surface on the modern ones. But Yeah, but this out of the two Soviet grenades, they had this one, and then they had the other one. I can never remember the names of them. This is an F1 grenade, but they had, was it like RSG-7 or something the other one was called? I can't remember. But that was the smaller one. And that other one was the one you were meant to throw. But the problem was with this one is apparently most people can't throw them in open ground far enough where they won't, the shrapnel, they won't be necessarily out the shrapnel's range. Yeah, you're right there, Nandor. Yeah, you can have the tripwire, can't you? That you can have on basically a tripwire, and then yeah, it will pull it out, and you can have the grenade essentially buried, and it becomes a little landmine. Yeah, Bright, all that sort of saying. I imagined it would be that case, but people argue it. Or it wouldn't necessarily Vrantix, it wouldn't progress at all, because remember in 1984, spoiler for anybody who's not read the book, considering how long ago it was written, the three nation states in 1984 are essentially colluding so the war never ends, because it's not beneficial for any of the nations to actually win the war. They need the war to basically just be a stalemate forever to, run their dictatorships. It would be difficult, Chris. It depends on the grenades. On some grenades, the pins come out easy. Some they don't. But as you can see, it depends how well they've been put in, and it depends how much the metal's bent. Like with that one, I've bent it like that, so it doesn't accidentally pull out and I have to reassemble the entire thing. Yeah, I mean, most grenades, though, Joshua, are lethal. That's sort of the point of grenades. Anyway, I'll put the grenades away now. Yes, Braden, I'll be off in about 10 minutes, I'm afraid. I might, at some point, if I can get them relatively cheaply, buy some more Diax grenades. That's cool. I hope I didn't spoil it too much for you, Brighthole, but because Diac grenades are one of those sort of Diac things that tend to be like a 20 to 30 pound Diac item, which I think is actually quite a reasonable price for something cool, because the amount of time people actually chat about grenades for ages on the stream when you get one out is quite good compared to some of the stuff. Yeah, it's not one I go on. It's just every now and then the numbers scroll, Braden. Apparently it's to stop it burning out a number as fast. It's apparently just like, a bit like refreshing a screen kind of thing. Well, my Riot gear certainly wouldn't CT Ranger, because especially not the plastic and foam stuff. If you had Riot gear, a modern Riot helmet's visor, like one of the ones I've got behind me, would certainly lower the risk of shrapnel ripping your face apart. But it would depend how good the shrapnel is. Like body armor certainly can stop frag stuff, Obviously, a military helmet with a ballistic visor on definitely could. Billy No mates, they're illegal in this country now, so don't fucking ask questions like that again. But no, I don't, because they're fucking illegal, sadly. And as we know, Weapon Collector had a massive collection and had to destroy them, because the government, did the dickish move of going, despite the fact nobody uses these in crimes anymore, let's just make them illegal. But yeah, for the most part, CT Ranger, I don't think Riot Gear would really do much at all against a grenade. Obviously, if you were at the very far end of the shrapnel range, like the effective shrapnel range, it might be enough padding to actually stop penetration. Yeah, Bright, I mean, it depends if you want a full mag's worth or not, because then it's going to still cost you a fair bit for a mag, isn't it? But if you just wanted some, to demonstrate the size of them on camera. Oh yeah, CT range. There's a lot of factors, aren't there? Like one of them is how good at penetrating the actual shrapnel is, because obviously some grenades are a bit more famous, for having nastier shrapnel than others. But flak jackets used to be designed to stop shrapnel from shells and grenades, and they did a pretty good job, and they're pretty old tech at this point. Yeah, in the UK, it's generally like at least £1 for most deactivated cartridges, so it's only worth buying them if you're getting a few things at once. Yeah, Rich. Well, from just regular grenade shrapnel, I think in general, Kevlar body armor with ceramic plates would be fine. But yeah, the problem is, Rich, obviously, and this is the main reason you need a bomb disposal suit, is if a grenade goes off and you're in the open and not behind cover, your legs might get ripped apart, even if your chest is all right. And that's the issue, isn't it? Because the thing is, I think a lot of people forget with grenades is how big in reality compared to like films and games, the kill radius is of them, like the kill or maim radius, because of just what shrapnel does. Because there's even people you see in like riots and protests who get like their hands blown off by like flash grenades, not ones that are even designed to maim people, but they still do, if you're close enough to them. But yeah, because I'm pretty certain that, like, although I don't think a regular riot helmet would be that good, I do think, like, if you get any of the modern sort of Kevlar or thermoplastic helmets, and then you get the visors that are compatible with them that, are meant to stop a couple of handgun rounds each, and unlike a video game, it's not like a little riot visor. They look like that thick, bit of polycarbonate. But those, I think, would stop shrapnel from a grenade all right. We were literally just discussing that, Joel. The answer is, I think a bulletproof vest, if you mean as in, what level of vest? Do you mean like a military one that's Kevlar plus plates? Definitely. I'd imagine if you're not right next to the thing. If you mean like a police style vest with like maybe NIJ 3A sort of panels in it, I reckon as long as you're far enough away, I reckon the vest would be fine. Because, old flak jackets would have had a lesser rating on NIJ stuff. But the problem is, if the vest only covers this much of your body and the shrapnel flies out like that, your head and legs and arms are just going to get ripped to shreds. But yeah, bear in mind, a single, like say a 44 Magnum round, right? That is carrying a lot more velocity per single thing than a bit of shrapnel does. Because the way of thinking about shrapnel, especially from something small like a grenade as opposed to a big shell, is you think of it a bit more like buckshot, for example, right? It's multiple things, traveling. As the further they travel, the faster and faster they lose energy. So if you were like a yard from a grenade, I don't think much armor at all would help you, because of the fact of the pressure of it going off and, how fast the shrapnel will be going. But I certainly think with, the further you are away from it, most likely the better your chances are of survival with, less good protective gear on. Sadly, I don't think he is tonight, Nick. But yeah, for people talking about the fuller on a blade, do you mean the thing a bit like that? That's the fuller. I know, like, Mike and a few other people are trying to help, but if you're on about that sort of thing, that's a fuller, like the ridge that goes down a blade. Is that what you mean? Fuller? Was that what you meant, the fuller? But yeah. Yeah, that sounds like a silly price, doesn't it? How many 9mm rounds do you get in a $60 box then? Like, so what would that make the price per round? Or is that like a box of 100? Because if that's 100 rounds for $60, that's fucking crazy. The idea that you're paying nearly $1 per bullet, like 60 cents per bullet or whatever it's going to be. I very much doubt it, CT Ranger. A riot shield, from videos I've seen of the really good riot shields, they can hold off a couple of rounds of birdshot. Like maybe one round of buckshot if you're very, very lucky. But the point is that riot shields aren't designed to stop bullets or anything like that. Riot shields are designed to stop blunt impacts. But yeah, a riot shield is not designed to stop, ballistic threats in a sense. It will stop some stuff, don't get me wrong, but the reason riot shields, for example, can stop birdshot a few times before they break apart is because, like I was saying again, it's the sort of physics that birdshot, loses energy very quickly. I'm sure Paul Harrell's done some good videos demonstrating this, but the more ball bearings or whatever you have behind the same, like, potentially energy load, say like powder load or like muzzle velocity, whatever you want to call it, the smaller rounds lose energy faster. So it's almost like what quadrupled in price then, Steve, basically. Well, it depends how close you are to it, Chris. I mean, I don't know, but if you're too close to a grenade, you're dead anyway. It'd be hard to say if the blood coming out of you is due to the pressure or due to the fact that you're, full of shrapnel. But yeah, pressure from things like that are very deadly. But again, that's going to depend on sort of room size or whatever it goes off in. But I'd imagine if you're in any sort of room that wouldn't be a sports hall, a grenade going off of in it is going to kill you. Just because I can't imagine you'd be in a room where the wall distance is further than the shrapnel range by quite a lot. I imagine that size you're going to be ripped to shreds. Oh yeah, as Inductive Tea Cake saying, this might be a good way of summing it up. That obviously a bullet, if you look at a Spitzer style bullet, a bit like an arrowhead, it's got a design that makes it fly through the air in a very precise way. Especially with rifling. When you have grenade shrapnel go off, although sometimes it might come off in a spike that travels fairly efficiently, a lot of the time it's just going to be a bit like a lump of metal, like you said, or maybe a ball bearing, and that's not going to fly all that efficiently. It's for small children, not babies. Yeah, so that's a fair increase, isn't it, Flazzy? Yeah, of course it's still legal, otherwise I wouldn't have it. No laws over here against halberds or bill hooks or pole arms of any sort. We've had stupid laws against some things, but there's nothing against pole arms. The only laws would be don't wander around with it in a public place. Don't be a retard about it. But if you've got it, if you own it in private property, perfectly legal. If you want to do gardening with it, perfectly legal. The most use I get out of my bill hook, weirdly, is cutting down ivy from a bit of the place in the garden where we get ivy grow a lot. Because that sort of ivy where you get secateurs and try and cut it with, and it's like quite difficult to cut with secateurs. The bill hook just goes through that like butter. It's because of the length of the pole on it. You get the hook on there, you go like that, and it just rips it down. Yeah, halberds are still completely legal. Yeah, you see, a riot shield can stand up to something like a halberd CT Ranger. Like, if the sharp end of the halberd, like the axe end, comes down on the edge of a riot shield, like not the front, but the edge, that will quite quickly break into it. But in terms of just trying to stab through a riot shield of a halberd, or just the axe hitting the front of it, a riot shield is designed to stop things like that. Riot shields are very good against blades and essentially blunt force. What they're not good against is bullets, Yeah, that's the thing, Mike. It's just because it's the perfect combination of, like the right edges on it and leverage that, the long pole gives you a lot more force on it. And obviously the edge means the ivy catches in it. But if you think original gardening bills, before the bill hook weapons were made from them, like an actual gardening bill or bill hook was literally just a, that sort of same shape, wasn't it? Like that. And the idea of that is that it works a bit like a sickle. It's the right shape for kind of catching grapevines or whatever you want to cut with it and getting them. You never want to be pulling a knife out to defend off attacks, Chris. That sounds like a very dumb idea. That's really a road you don't want to go down of carrying a knife because it looks intimidating. Well, I think CT Ranger, if at the stage somebody was seriously attacking police of a riot, riot police with a billhook to try and kill them, that person would be shot by armed police. That would generally be what would happen. Because, if you watch videos of like riots where people are like trying to throw homemade explosives at the police, that will be when that person just gets shot by somebody with a tear gas launcher directly, which pretty much kills them. Or, an armed cop just shoots them. In general, riot police are trained to deal with people hitting them with clubs and things like that. But if the riots escalate to the point where people are attacking the police with actual weapons with the intent of killing them, the police generally shoot them. Hello to you in Poland. Personally, I think, as far as I said, a mag light, I think, would be a much better tool for self-defense if you needed it for it. But yeah, the point is with a lot of this stuff, and I'll finish the stream here, is that in lots of these situations, it's an escalation thing, right? Like when you see riots in various countries that turn into like civil war type things, is when it's essentially police just beating on people and people beating on the police. That's kind of what a riot situation is. When it becomes people trying to like kill the other side, whether it be like, the government machine gunning protesters in the street, or, people trying to shoot riot police, people trying to set them on fire, people trying to run them over, that's generally when the police start shooting back. And that's exactly the situation, where I think it's a bit irrelevant to say, well, would this be good against riot police? Well, because at that point it turns into a proper conflict, and then that's the point where it's guns and tanks, not. Well, with all the Navalny stuff, Lazzy, yeah, probably could be, but Putin has a lot of security forces, doesn't he? And I think at the end of the day, that they're going to be the ones winning. As Claire says, if it comes to that, it's over. Yeah, this is, I think, a bit the problem. That outside of somewhere like America, where everybody's packing heat, in a lot of countries, I think if it gets to the stage where like the army is mobilized because the police are losing control of everything. Okay, here's a good example of this, right? Before I go off. So what was the one you had in America? The LA riots, right? Police completely lost control of the situation. There was like lootings and murders going on non-stop. The National Guard gets sent in with live ammo. The rioting stops like that. Because most people aren't dumb enough to decide that when there's soldiers with, essentially rifles, they're not dumb enough to try their luck. So it's that kind of thing that when armored vehicles and, the police or, army are deployed in such a way where it's literally going to be, we're going to shoot you if you're out on the streets, most people know when to stop. The people who don't, I guess, are deserving their Darwin Award. Or that's the point when a country's having, like a proper revolution or, civil war type thing going on. But, in general, if you see the really serious riots, they always end when a massive use of force is given by the police or army. It's not freaking out, it's refreshing itself. And as I've said, eBay. And we're getting rid of the person before I go that's just been spamming stupid one-word comments. Right, anyway, see you all. It was quite a funny stream tonight for some of the discussions.